Los Angeles, the hub for popular culture in the West Coast. Whether it's the glim and glamour from Hollywood or the music that derives from it, LA has become a fundamental cornerstone in pop culture. However, something has been cooking in LA. Cooking is an apt term, as the restaurant business has been taking a dramatic shift, and the culture surrounding it has evolved into something fantastic. Different ethnic groups bringing in a new perspective and taste into food is causing the culture in which we know as dining into something elevated yet available. The food culture has taken a whole new life on its own. With the help of technology, food is mainstream on sites like YouTube and on Instagram. In trying to explain this, I'll be speaking with trailblazer, chef, and owner of the Paramount, Mario Christerna, to get an even better understanding and also show what some generations may be missing out on.
All right, cool. So I'm down. Whatever you want to talk about.
Okay, so first off, like, for people, because I've heard a little bit, but I want to know more, like, what was like the thing that made you like, okay, this is what I want to do with like you want to pursue a career as a chef?
Well, it all started when I was about 5 or 6 years old. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like what I wanted to do. It's just what I thought was fucking dope. You know, it was like I grew up in Boyle Heights and Wydenwood Gardens and the projects, and we had no money. You know, my mom, I didn't have a dad, and my grandmother was always working. My mom was always working, and so when my grandma was in town, she would put on Sesame Street for us to like, you know, for us to kind of kill time. It's like nowadays, you know, give the kid a tablet.
Yeah.
Well, back then it was like Sesame Street,
yeah.
And we had no cable TV, so you got PBS, you know. And so I would watch Sesame Street, and then I would watch Reading Rainbow, and I would wait. Whatever the artist was, Bob Roberts, whatever his name is, with the afro.
Okay.
And then after that, it would be Julia Child,
yeah.
And I would be like glued to the TV, like what the fuck, like turduckens and this and that, and then like Jacques Pepin would come on, and I'm like, dude, like what are they talking about? Like this is insane. And then from there, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like I want to be like him. So I used to tell my grandma, like I want to be like him. I want to be on TV. And back then there was really like no celebrity chefs. It wasn't like nowadays you have chefs cooking on TV all the time, but back then you really didn't. It was Julia Child and Jacques Pepin, you know? Mm-hmm. And I remember I used to tell my grandma, one day I'm gonna own a restaurant, and she would hang the clothes outside, and from now you can't see it, but because they put a building there, but before you can see downtown. And I would tell her one day I'm gonna own a restaurant over there, I'm gonna be famous, and so that's kind of where it all kicked off.
Okay. And
I would sneak spices and cook up like my grandma's food, because my great grandmother was partially blind, and her food sucked, and flush it on the toilet and be all hungry. So I'd go to the spice cabinet and like rehook up her food.
Yeah. But
then it wasn't until in my 20s that I'm doing everything for money and not for passion. So then I asked myself a question like, what the fuck do you really love? Mm-hmm. Like, what can you see yourself doing for the rest of your life? Like, what do you love? What is your passion? And it's food. It's cooking. Like, that's what moves me. That's what, like, it's my art. Yeah. And I feel like we're all artists in some way. And I found it. And I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
So what do you think about, because like what you just touched upon a little bit, like you're saying how back then there really wasn't like those celebrity chefs, or it's definitely not as mainstream as it once was, mm-hmm. as it is now. Well, what would you say is like a reason for that, if you have one?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I was to give my own opinion, I think it's, back in the days there was like an image of like what a chef was, you know, like the chubby guy with the hat, you know, that's in the back, mm-hmm. that no one talks to, but they just taste his food. Yeah. You know, like they weren't in front of the cameras, they weren't out there yet. You know, they didn't have their own voice. Mm-hmm. You know, they all like cooked one type of cuisine. Like, I'm gonna be an Italian chef because I'm Italian. I'm gonna do Mexican because I'm Mexican. Or there was an owner telling them like what they were gonna cook. Yeah. And a lot of chefs weren't owners yet. They were just like robots. I don't say robots because that's like I don't want to disrespect anybody, but it was different, you know. And I feel like now there's like a consciousness out there. People are getting more awake, and the artists are starting to come out of people. Yeah. And now chefs are starting to tell their own story now. And now they're like, you can have tattoos. Like, I'm fucking sleeved up.
Yeah, that's dope.
You know, like I can't go get a job at like freaking somewhere else. You know, this is what I do. Yeah. You know, and now we're able to express ourselves. And now a lot more chefs are being owners now. And you know, they're learning the business and they tell their story. And yeah, it's different. It's a whole different world. You know.
Mm-hmm. What was the thing? It was like, oh yeah, let's settle right here in Paramount.
Destiny. I believe in a higher power. I believe in energy. I believe in like there's forces mm-hmm. that are working out there. Maybe it's your ancestors. Maybe it's God, maybe it's, I don't know, whatever you want to call this ultimate force of love, right? And I really feel that this force brought me here to this moment in time to be here. And this was my duty. This was part of my journey. When I decided to create this company with my business partner and open up this place, it was like, we have to do this. We're the custodians of this building. You know, what would Rita Hayworth say? What would Stevie Wonder say? What would Cab Calloway that passed away say? You know, and it's just like, let's make them happy and let's just create something special. And I always wanted to be back home. And I asked the universe for it. I remember the sun was setting and I was asking for it, and next thing you know, it was like, I'm here. So it's just part of the journey.
So you feel like there's like a sense of like, you have a responsibility to honor what was been done before.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, it's like, they kicked this off, and they were the custodians during that time. Well, now it's our turn. And now we gotta be the custodians in this lifetime, and then hopefully later on, someone else can take that on. Maybe it's my kids, maybe it's someone else, I don't know.
Yeah.
But in this lifetime, we have to take this on.
That's awesome.
Maintain the history, preserve the history. I'm like a preservationist. I believe in preserving. And all we're doing here is preserving what was already here. And just keeping it special, and the art, you know, there's the cocktails, the food, the music, the sound, the smiles, and you know, maintaining these memories, because at the end of the day, when you die, all you die is with memories.
Yeah.
When you taste food, what do you taste? You taste memories. You taste nostalgia. You're like, oh my God, that
Exactly.
flavor reminds me of my grandmother when she was making tamales, or the time that I went to Morocco, or da 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 da. This reminds me, oh, that smell of clove, you know, during Thanksgiving. It's like all these memories, and that's what you die with. And so here we're just keeping the memories going.
Do you think that you have to incorporate like that sense of, I guess, nostalgia or like that history with your menu, like, but at the same time trying to make something new out of that?
Great question. So yes, so I look at speaking of the Paramount, right? There's music here,
Yeah.
right? And I look at making a menu just like an artist makes an album. It's the same process, I think, just in a different way. I look at every menu item like a track on a record. I look at the menu as the album, right? So when you make a record, or when you make a track, you know, you gotta first you do the rhythm, and then you do the melodies, and so same thing. You know, you get the idea. Maybe it's the chicken, maybe it's the sauce, or maybe one day you walked by the park and you saw this flower and it made you think of something, and next thing you know, it's like, okay, I start cooking it. Well, now it needs melody, so now a little bit of cumin, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, or maybe it needs a little bit of crunch, maybe it needs a little bit of acid, it needs to drop, it needs to like crescendo, and it does this thing, right? And so, and then also, when you make a menu, it has to fit the space. And so with the Paramount, it's music, it's bar food, and so I wanted it to be like bar food, you know, finger foods, but chef driven. And that's why I have like food that makes you want to drink. You know, it's like crunchy, salty, sweet, spicy, you know, the pork belly, crunchy on the outside, soft on the inside. It makes you want to go back and get another drink. So it all goes and ties in together.
So what do you think about that idea of the sense that LA is starting to change, and like we're starting to stir away from that like generic, just, all right, you're an Italian chef, so you make Italian food, and you're just you know, you're a French chef, so you have to make purely French cuisine. What do you think about that?
I mean, I love what's happening right now. I really love it. I feel like now we have a voice. We're no longer afraid. Back then it was like, oh, I want to be safe. I want to make lasagna, which is cool. I love lasagna, right? Yeah. But now you have people that are like, wait a minute, but I'm not Italian. Maybe I'm mixed with French. Maybe my mom is from Mexico, and I'm going to make a lasagna with fideo. I don't know, right? And so I feel like now we're starting to wake up, and we're starting to say, you know what? No, this is my art. This is who I am. Let me tell my story. Like my first restaurant that I owned, I did a fusion that no one had done before, right? Because I feel like as an artist, you have to tell your story. And I worked in Barcelona for a 3 Michelin star restaurant, so the Spanish influence came in, and I'm Chicano, I'm from Boyle Heights, right? And when I first opened up my restaurant, no one at the time was really doing North African food. It was like maybe one spot in Hollywood, and that was it. No one was doing what I was doing. And I remember when I did it, people were like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you're really gonna do this? You're gonna invest this money, you're gonna do this? Like, no one's gonna come. And I said, I don't care, like, this is my art, this is who I am, and I'm gonna put my heart on my sleeve, like, that's what I'm gonna do. I did it, and people were kind of like, well, what the fuck? Next thing you know, it was like, what is these flavors? Like, you kind of open them up to a whole new world of stuff, you know? It's like, I look at me, for example, and I'm Chicano, my stepdad is Cuban, I married an Indian girl, you know, what am I supposed to do, pick one? Like, no, these are all my roots, and I'm in Los Angeles, and we all live here, we're all diverse people. And the beauty of being in California and in Los Angeles is that we have an abundance of ingredients. We have great weather, a bunch of farmers, we have our our bays, people come in and bring stuff. So we're very spoiled here for chefs,
Yeah.
and we're able to like play around and do stuff. And I feel like now people are more open to it, and it's not so much like, oh, this fusion stuff. Now it's just like art.
Yeah.
Like, let me just taste your art.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
what would you say to someone would be like, I would say like a critical approach to like food, Someone that's just like, maybe it's not the sense that they don't want to see this change, but maybe they just don't know it and they're not aware of like what's going on.
Look at a multiracial family. See them. You might see a guy that's from India, a woman that's from Mexico, and you're like, well, what are they doing together? But then you see their baby, and the baby's gorgeous, right? It's like the possibilities that can happen when you just get rid of the stereotype and actually try it, and then you see the creation of it. I would say take a chance. I would say don't live in a box, because if you do a DNA test of yourself, you're not just one type of race.
Definitely not.
You're
Yeah.
everything else, right? And then what is that? It becomes you. So it's like trying something. If you don't try, you're never gonna find out. You never know. You might find a new record that you might like. You might hear a new sound that you might be like, what the fuck is this sound?
Yeah.
You might have a new taste that you're like, wow, I never knew that this and this can taste so good. Look at the sun. The same sun that shines on China shines in Japan and shines in Mexico and shines in New Orleans and shines in Shanghai and in Brazil. It's the same sun. It's the same energy, the same force. So just trust the sun, trust love, and just try it. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. And if it's for you, you might find something new.
It is clear to see that the culinary world has evolved into something unique, yet not exclusive. The restaurant business may have had a more critical perspective when it came to what was the norm. However, it is evident that people from different backgrounds and cultures can come together to form something special. When it comes to food, there's a sense of union and common ground, and we as humans love food. And isn't that what matters at the end of the day? Tasting someone's new art and appreciating it for what it is?